Right, we'll start again. Apparently we're on mute. Kia ora koutou, welcome to the webinar for the Bachelor of Radiation Therapy this evening. My name is Billy Muty. I'm the Director of the Bachelor of Radiation Therapy here. With me, I have two of our lovely Year 3 students who have kindly had their time volunteered this evening. So this is Liv and Sania. They're going to answer any questions you have as the evening goes on. We will aim to be finished by 6 p.m. I've also got with me, hiding out of the corner, is Kate Chadwick, who is our head of department. She's going to look after the questions. So if you've got a question for us at any time, use the Q&A function, type your question. Kate will either reply to you or we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. So the first thing we're going to do is get started with a bit of a video and then a PowerPoint about the program and how you get on. And then once we've done that, we'll start answering some of your questions.
Welcome to the Bowen Icon Cancer Centre Radiation Therapy Department. I'm Logan, I'm the Clinical Lead Radiation Therapist at the Bowen Icon Cancer Centre. So the first part of the radiation therapy process is coming in to have a planning CT scan. And in the CT scanner we have a wide range of immobilisation equipment which we use to position our patients in a reproducible position for their treatment each day. Our patients and feet are positioned in immobilisation equipment which we use to keep them still. So the first part of the process is making sure the patient is nice and straight, and we use lasers that come out of the ceiling and walls, which you can see on the patient's body here, and we use those to straighten the patient, but also we use those for repositioning the patient each day, as we have a similar set on the linear accelerator. We're always making sure that we have the correct patient on the bed, have all our direct identification procedures, a lot of patient reassurance, making sure that all of our equipment is correct and precise. The aim of radiation therapy is to have it as precise and exact as we can. So if we have a reproducible setup that we generate here when we capture our CT image, which is what we use to plan the patient's treatment, then that will translate exactly through to the treatment machine. It needs to be exact, as we're delivering high doses of radiation each day, so the position that the patient is in needs to be reproducible on a daily basis so that we can hit that exact target every day. The next step in the process is the radiation treatment planning. So the doctor outlines on the CT scan where they would like to deliver the treatment, and the radiation therapist comes along, plans the radiation treatment to deliver the dose to the tumour, but minimise the dose delivered to the other surrounding normal tissue. The third step in the process is the radiation treatment delivery. Standardly, the radiation gets the patient from the waiting room and brings them through in the maze and into the radiation therapy bunker. The patient comes into the room onto the treatment couch, which is set up exactly the same way as they were for their CT scan. In the treatment bunker, we have an identical set of lasers to the CT scanner, which we use to align the patient first before proceeding with treatment. So to see the lasers, we dim our room lights down. So we raise the patient up on the couch, remove the patient under the head of the machine, and we straighten the patient using the lasers like we did at the CT scan to reproduce that position. So at this point, the two radiation therapists would verify all of the machine parameters and all of the setup parameters for that particular patient and double check it against our setup sheets and all the information that we documented at the CT scan. And once we're happy with the setup position, we reassure the patient, inform the patient that we're leaving the room, and then we leave the room. So we have a last man out button on the wall, which is a sounding alarm, which alerts everyone in the treatment room to be out of the treatment room except the patient. We also have laser gates on the entrance to the bunker as well, and if the radiation beam is switched on and then someone accidentally walks into the treatment bunker, the beam will terminate straight away. At the treatment console, one staff member is always watching the patient on the closed circuit TV cameras. Both radiation therapists are verifying all the machine parameters against the treatment plan that was generated, and the treatment is delivered. So the treatment machine moves around the patient to deliver the treatment. So on the machine, as well as the treatment delivery head, we also have a kilovoltage X-ray unit which is mounted to the treatment machine gantry, so we can take X-ray images of the patient's internal anatomy to verify the correct location of our treatment before we deliver the treatment. Modern machines can also take a CT scan as well, which we can overlay with the CT scan that we took at the original planning simulation session to verify the internal anatomy that we're treating as well. Excellent, we'll see you back tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
I chose a career in radiation therapy as I had a couple of grandparents when I was at high school that were having treatment, so I took them in for their treatments in my school holidays. And from there, the radiation therapist asked if I wanted to go into the treatment room and have a look and see what was going on, and I did. And it really fascinated me, the mix of patient care, technology, it's very precise. And then when I did a little bit more research into that, the applications with radiation treatment planning, physics, and the fast advancing technology is what really drew me in.
I really liked the mix of science but also medical, and the fact that you really get to make a connection with people on quite a deep level. You're seeing them every day for sometimes weeks and weeks at a time, and that's what really drew me to it, was that you could help somebody medically but also really form a bond with them.
I got into radiotherapy because it was introduced to me during my first year health sci. It ticked a lot of boxes in terms of my interests. There's quite a technical base to it, but it's also focused on improving people's lives and helping them when they're in a really stressful, challenging situation. It really appeals to me because I get to see these people on a daily basis and see them over a period of time, where I get to see that we are making a difference, both clinically but also hopefully in terms of their mindset as they approach their cancer treatment as well.
So that was a quick overview of the process within a radiation therapy department. So as you can see, radiation therapy, the little byline, where technology meets caring. And it really is that intersection of wanting to work with people, but really being interested in science and technology as well. It's a fast-changing profession, and the technology changes quite rapidly. We do work as part of a healthcare team. We don't work on our own. So there are doctors, nurses, a huge team of people who work within a radiation therapy centre or a cancer centre, all working to help our patients. So one question we get asked a lot, and there is a bit of a confusion, is we are not diagnostic radiographers or medical imaging technologists, as they're called now. So they are our colleagues who take the X-rays, CTs, MRs, nuclear medicine and ultrasound to look to diagnose the disease. We use some of the same equipment, but for quite different purposes. So we're two separate professions, and there is a lot of confusion around that, so hence why we have this particular slide. So that's a completely separate training program. We are just the treatment of cancer, so the therapy side of it. And there only is the one department in New Zealand where you can, one training program where you can train to do that, and that is the University of Otago. As I said, we work very much in a team, which is a great part of the profession. So we don't do anything on our own. We are always working in teams, and I think it's one of the aspects of the job that we all really enjoy. Yeah. So as you saw from the video, there are the three key areas that we work in. So the CT part, so although I said we're not diagnostic, we use CT scanners, but we're using it for the very particular purpose to locate the best way to position the patient. Positioning is everything for us. We're trying to work to millimetre accuracy. And so someone's position is really critical for how they're going to be treated. Some of our patients will come for up to 7 weeks of treatment, and we'll see them 5 days a week. So the position they're lying in has to be reproducible and able to be the same every day over and over. So we're really fussy about our positioning. Once we've got them in that position, we take the CT scan, but we're just looking for information about the anatomy in the area we're going to treat. They've already been diagnosed. We're not looking to look at the tumour any further. We're just collecting information. We do sometimes tattoo our patients. We need to be able to reproduce it, so it's a little bit X marks the spot. But that's, even the tattoos are moving out, technology changing all the time, and there's some really cool technology coming in where we can use imaging in the surface of the patient to work out whether their positioning is correct. Once we've got that information, we transfer it to our planning system. And this is a very specialised piece of computer software that's a 3D CAD system, basically, where we as the radiation therapists, working under the direction of the doctors, are going to work out what is the best way to deliver as much radiation as we can. The radiation is external, or comes from the outside. We want to give as much dose as we can to the tumour, and limit the dose we give to all the other tissues that surround it, because it doesn't need any treatment at all. That process could be as quick as half an hour for something fairly straightforward or quite simple. For something really complex, it might take a couple of days. And it's a whole new language and a whole new skill that we use. And these guys have just done 3 years of training in it and are into their final part of it, so we might talk about that a little bit further on. But it's one of the specialist areas. Here at the university, you learn and train on the actual clinical planning system that are used in hospitals, so it's as real as we can make it. The treatment itself is delivered by what we call linear accelerator machines, and these are very high energy X-ray machines. So it is using X-rays, but much higher energy than you would say if you had a broken wrist. If you had that, the energy we're using is about 120 kilovolts. The energy we're using is up to 18 megavolts, so 18 million volts. So very penetrating. And we're looking to damage the cancer cells, try and kill those cells and stop the division of them. The machines themselves are very large. You could probably see a little bit from that video. And they are very complex and they are very expensive. So a treatment machine plus a treatment bunker, so the rooms the machines are in are concrete bunkers, metre-thick concrete walls. And the machines in a bunker cost about $5 million. So that's why they're not everywhere in New Zealand. They are only in the main centres. And although we don't have one here at the university, strangely enough, they weren't giving me $5 million to buy a machine, we do have a virtual linear accelerator. So one that can do all the movements of it and simulate the positioning of it so that you can learn on that. If you study radiation therapy, we study lots of axes, and obviously the technical aspects of what we are very much what you're going to learn about. But the other things we're really focusing on are those excellent communication skills. All of our patients have cancer. When they come to us, they are all very vulnerable. And right from the very first time we meet them, we're having to have some quite open and medically difficult conversations sometimes with our patients. So as radiation therapists, we become very skilled communicators. I think it's one thing that's really unique about us, how good we are at it. And I'm very proud of the radiation therapists we produce and how excellent they truly are at that skill. Problem solving. No 2 days are the same, no 2 patients are the same. You can have your protocol of how you might like to deliver things to a patient, but everyone's different. So we have to be able to think on our feet. And so we have to be quite adaptable as well. Sort of talked about the teamwork skills and the technical skills. Along with our communication skills, we have to have that level of empathy. We need to be able to connect with our patients and be empathetic towards them. And then finally, as I sort of hammered home earlier, accuracy is everything for us. So an eye for detail, and lots of radiation therapists, I think everyone in this room, are perfectionists. So if that's something that resonates with you, it is a characteristic we like in radiation therapists. What's the job actually like? So a lot of people, when we say it's a vibrant working environment, we really mean it. have you guys both been asked at some point, oh, working with cancer patients must be really sad every day?
All the time.
Yeah. And it can be, and I'm not being flippant about that, but the day-to-day, it's a really vibrant environment. Most of our patients are outpatients, meaning that they live at home. Most of them are still working, going about their daily lives. Some are more sick than others. But generally, the amount of times I've been told by a patient, well, I really hadn't expected to come in here and have a laugh while I was having my treatment. And at the end of their treatment, our patients are truly grateful for it. And they show that in many ways. And all radiation therapists love food, and we get a lot of food from our patients. Working that team, one of the nice things about it, and it is something to think about if you're looking at a career in health, is we are an outpatient service, meaning we operate from Monday to Friday, pretty much within normal business hours, kind of 8 till 5, very little on-call work and really no weekend work. So it is a nice mix of that clinical environment, but still maybe having a little bit of a normalish kind of routine and a normal life that matches partners and families kind of life. There are lots of opportunities overseas. I feel compelled to talk about that, but at the moment we're really short-staffed of radiation therapists in New Zealand. So by all means, take those opportunities to travel, but we want everyone to come back. Are you two listening? Is it safe to work with the radiation? Yes, it is. So it is electrically generated X-rays. So when we turn the machine off, there is no radiation. We can go into the treatment room, we're standing next to the treatment machine, there is no radiation. It's perfectly safe. As we say, you'll get more radiation flying to the UK than you will working as a radiation therapist. Many of our staff are pregnant. You can work right up until you're 9 months pregnant. There is no risk. We leave the treatment room to deliver the radiation. We're watching our patients the whole time on the cameras that you saw on the video, but it means that we're not exposed to any radiation at all. So how do you go about, hopefully I've sold it to you, how do you go about becoming a radiation therapist? So it is a 3-year program at the University of Otago. One thing about our program, we are an Otago degree, but we are based in Wellington, and that's based at the School of Medicine in Wellington, where alongside the radiation therapists, there are 4th, 5th and 6th year medical students, 4th year physios, and some 4th or 5th year dietitians as well. So it's a smaller campus, and the program is run from here. We're a 3-year program, so if you're coming straight from school, and I'll talk about that a little more in a minute, 3 years, you're fully qualified at the end. You can be registered with our regulatory authority right upon qualification, and you can work immediately, including overseas if you wanted to go overseas straight away. Shh, don't listen. So it's a 3 years done. I said earlier, we're the national program. We are the only one in New Zealand. So if you want to become a radiation therapist, we're a really small profession. I think there are about 460 registered radiation therapists in New Zealand, hence why there's only the one program. There are a number of admission categories. Secondary school, 1 year university, 2 years university, graduate and alternative. So those admission subcategories we have as well. So Māori, Pacific Island, refugee, socioeconomic equity. And if you think these are categories that might apply to you, I recommend you look for further information on our website. And I will often say refer you back to our website. It's a wealth of information there, and everything you're going to need to know will be there. We are a competitive entry program. So there are a number of criteria you need to meet to be able to get onto the program. And we have a limited number of clinical places available. So next year we're hoping to take a class of about 35 to 40 students. Applications open on the 1st of August and they close on the 15th of September. That close date, you can see it's highlighted there, and that is a hard close date. And I'll talk a little bit more about how you do the application. but it is a hard close date of that 15th of September. If you miss that date, there is nothing I can do about it, that we can't accept any applications after that date. The application process is quite long. So if you are looking to apply, please do not leave it to the last minute. You won't get it done in time. So it's something to think about and be a bit prepared about. Still got the wrong slide in there. So this slide has actually changed. I apologise that we've got the wrong one in there. We've recently had a regulation change that makes it easier for you to enter from school. So we no longer need, ignore the bits where it says English, we no longer need English as a priority subject. You do still need to be taking maths, stats or calculus, and physics or bio at level 3, and you need to achieve a minimum of 14 credits in those subjects. So maths, physics or bio, so maths and physics or bio, 14 credits in each, as well as your literacy and your numeracy credits to gain university entrance. The physics or bio, you don't have to do both. It can be one or the other. We do have both in the program, but the physics, we know a lot of people don't take physics at school, and the physics we have in our program is, we don't actually even call it physics, it's radiation technology. We are really super focused on just radiation, linear accelerators, the art of radiation therapy. And I think these guys will talk a little bit later about physics because that freaks some people out, and hopefully we'll give you some comfort on that. In the 1-year university category and the 2 or more years, we are looking for a minimum GPA average of a C+. You don't have to come from health science first year. You can be doing a relevant year of university study at any university, as long as it's within sort of relevant areas. And really, we're talking like a Bachelor of Science or a Health Science or a Psychology. We're looking at subjects that broadly match what you might be studying within radiation therapy. There are no compulsory papers, and there's no minimum mark you have to get in any paper. So if you are at university now and you've failed one paper or haven't done particularly well on it, but your overall GPA is a C+ or greater, then we're able to consider your application. Same for the year 2. If you're a graduate of a university or you're in an alternative category, then it becomes a little bit more bespoke as to your qualifications and what you're doing. So if that's you, I would recommend you have a look on our website and then give us an email, contact us to talk through further your individual circumstance, I think would be the better way.
A link to the correct entry.
Sorry, Kate has popped a link into the chat of the correct entry criteria. I do apologise for that. So applications for study in 2025 open the 1st of August and close the 15th, as I said. So you must do your application through the University of Otago's eVision student portal. So once you've set up an account on eVision, you will select Health Sciences undergraduate professional programs and select radiation therapy. If you see one that says radiation therapy honours, do not select that. That is a postgraduate honours program. That's a separate qualification. You're just wanting to go for radiation therapy. If it seems that, so you need to provide a CV and quite a bit of other information from that. If it appears that you would be eligible for the category you're applying under, we will then offer you an interview. And the interviews are Zoom-based and start from the 30th of September, that week of the late September, early October. The interviews, why do we have an interview? Well, your first clinical placement is 6 weeks into the program. So we're looking to see, have you got reasonable communication skills? Have you thought about teamwork, problem solving, those kinds of things? We're just looking to check that you've got the right attributes for the environment that we're going to be working in. The interviews are pretty low key and we try and keep them really friendly. We're just trying to get to know you a bit better. I'm sure these guys remember their interviews. How was it?
Good. It was good.
Yes.
We had to come in person, so
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot less scary over Zoom.
Yeah, probably a bit less scary.
Yeah, a little
over
bit
Zoom.
less intimidating.
Yeah.
So that's
But we
good.
try to make it as friendly as possible. So don't let the fact that there's an interview put you off either. One thing we do strongly recommend is a visit to a cancer centre. So all of the cancer centres around the country have open evenings, and this information can be found on our webpage and how to book. And it's going in the chat as well. So with the cancer centre tours, now, if you can get along to one, that's great. You'll see the actual environment that it's working in. You'll get to chat to the clinical tutors in those departments, maybe some of the students. But don't panic if you can't. We know that everyone does not live in a major centre where there is a cancer centre. And so from that point of view, we've got that video that we've got going there. We've shown that to you. You can watch that a couple of times. There are a couple of other resources on our website you can have a look at as well to get the idea of what the environment is like. Our Wellington campus, we are a small campus. And one thing I would say is if you want the really big university experience, we can't give you that. If you know radiation therapy is what you want to do, what we give you is smaller class size. So you are going to get to know your peers and your cohort, and they become your friends for life. My best friend is from my cohort. I know Kate's is. You guys are pretty tight class as well. So it's you immediately start your profession the first day you get here, and that's your professional cohort. We are a much smaller department, so the teaching rooms are embedded where all the staff have their offices. You get to know all of the staff really well, so we're not just distant figures. You can turn up at our door anytime. And so it's really easy to connect with us. We make it hard for you to get on the course. We make it really hard for you to get off the course once you're on. So we will support you all the way with your learning. So you're very visible. That cuts both ways. You are really visible. So we do know how you're going at all times. It is a vibrant student life. And our cohorts tend to do lots of really interesting things together. I think you guys were Relay for Life.
Yes.
This year, lots of fundraising, lots of social activities. So there's a lot of fun that happens as well. And we really want to make that part of your training too. We want you to learn, we want you to be the best RTs, but we want you to have a good time while you're doing it as well. How it's actually laid out is the first year is pretty much all theory, and that's based here in Wellington. You have a 1 week clinical experience out at a department around the country. Then in second year, you will go out for your placement out into a cancer centre, and that's for the first 6 months of the year. At the end of that, you come back to the university here in Wellington for the second semester. In year 2, year 3, you're still here at the start of the semester, and then you're back out to your cancer centre for the final clinical experience in third year. And that's what these guys are doing now. Once they get to the end of October, they will be, and they've passed everything, they're signed off, ready to go. The Cancer Centre clinical partners are based all around the country. So these are where our partners are, and they're in the main centres around the country. We try and give you, so we will ask you where you would like to go for your placement. And we try to get everyone their preference of where they want to go. The reality is that we can't accommodate that. And so we'll work with you as to how we manage that process. But we do ask you for your preference, and we try very hard to accommodate that. Accommodation. Because we're not based in Otago, there are no Otago halls of residence here in Wellington. But our students do stay in first year. You can apply to Victoria and Massey halls of residence, and they do take students from other programs. And a number of our students are in Victoria halls of residence this year. Did you stay in a hall, Liv?
I did, yeah. I
Yeah.
stayed in a hall.
Were you first year, Sania? No, you
No,
were
I was living at home.
home. That's right. So if you want further information about those, you can have a look on our website, but go to the Victoria and the Massey websites for Wellington, and you will need to apply for their accommodation through their website. If you've got Plan B, so we don't have any control over that, but as I said, a number of our first years are in halls this year. Second and third year, most of our students tend to flat. And just our second years have come back just now, and they all said they didn't really have too much of an issue of finding a flat. And you guys were all right at the start of the year too. So it seems to have settled down a little bit of Wellington, and those accommodation options were available. The accommodation being through a different provider. We do recommend, we're a competitive entry program, so we do recommend that you have a plan B and maybe a plan C about what your career choices might be. If your plan B option is to go to Dunedin and do health science first year, it may be that you apply for a hall in Dunedin and you apply for a hall here at Victoria. Did you do this?
I did that,
okay.
yeah.
If you get accepted into the Bachelor of Radiation Therapy and need to turn down your offer of a hall in Dunedin, the hall in Dunedin will refund your deposit. If you're going to another university, say your backup plan is Auckland, and you've applied to a hall in Auckland, but you want to come to us in Otago, unfortunately, Auckland aren't going to give you a refund on your deposit, or you would have to talk to them, but to the best of my knowledge, they're not going to, because you're going to a different university. We do that because you're coming within the same university. I hope that makes sense. Once you're qualified, we've got great employment opportunities in New Zealand at the moment. As I said, as there is with all health workers at the moment, there is a shortage of radiation therapists in New Zealand. The starting salary is around 66,000, and you progress by automatic progression for the next 8 years. Up until the early 90,000s, I think. From that, your salary can increase, but it's through promotion as you start to specialise into various things. So that's a good knowing that for that first year, 8 years of your profession, you are automatically increasing your pay each year. There is a new graduate program that many of the hospitals take up. So once you start work, we don't just kind of launch you out there. There is some wraparound support for helping you transition from being a student to a qualified. You can specialise in a number of areas. So there's 3 areas we talked about. You can specialise in all of those. You can specialise into research and development, clinical education. Other areas now are going into industry, so the manufacturers, the companies that make the equipment. And then some of our staff have gone into other areas like the Ministry of Health, Health New Zealand, ACC, the Cancer Control Agency, into other areas as well. So there are a number of ways that you can progress in radiation therapy. I'm going to skip over this one. Yes, you can work overseas, come back. Postgraduate opportunities right up to PhD if you want to. We've got one PhD candidate going at the moment, and we've had a number go through honours and masters. Generally, people are doing those, they're designed to be clinical qualifications. So many people are working and doing their honours based on something clinical that they're interested in. If you want some more information, go on to our website. I probably can't stress that enough. There's a wealth of information there as well. The other area is on that there is a generic email listed. I'll just go back to that. There's a generic email listed, and it that email will come through to Kate and myself, and we can answer any specific questions that you have. So I'm just going to end the presentation with a word from some of our students. This is a couple of years old now, but I think they sort of sum things up nicely.
Hands-on experience, being involved in the community, diversity, people from all walks of life,
interpersonal communication,
friendly classmates, making a difference,
interactive learning environment,
whakawhanaungatanga, rewarding,
always more to learn,
variety,
interactive classes,
aroha, patient care and technology, personal interactions with lecturers, clinical experience, hands-on learning, new challenges every day,
supportive groups,
close to home, lots of different people,
caring, science and technology.
a strong and fun team environment, make a difference. You get to meet heaps of cool different people.
Right, we'll now stop that presentation and Kate will share with us some of the questions you've been asking. Frantically typing.
I think what might be great to start with is, if you wouldn't mind, Billy, just talking a little bit about the number of places we have versus the number of applications and why it's important to still apply, even though we might have a lot of applications.
Yeah. So in terms of the pure number of applications, we might have something around 160, 170 people apply. But not all of those people are going to be interviewed. Not everyone meets the criteria within the category that they're looking to apply in. And then from there, we'll offer an interview. The most I think we've ever interviewed is about 115 people. But usually it's around the 100, 110 kind of mark, although that varies a little bit. And then from that interview, we if you've met this sort of criteria, we then have a look at your academic, where you're going academically. So it's a mixture of the interview and then the criteria for the category you're asking in and your academic ability within that. And so usually, so say last year for 25 places, we made offers to 60 people, so about a 1 in 2 from the interviews we did, and then we offered to about 60 people, but of course not everyone accepts us. So if you get to interview, it's not a bad chance of getting in, but it's not a guarantee either. So it's about putting your best foot forward at the interview, and then we're looking at that academic. We don't have particular numbers from particular categories, because those numbers vary very much each year. So we're just going to have a look at each category as it comes through each year. So we don't have ring-fenced percentages available to each category.
And if you could just comment, Billy, sort of about the competitiveness.
So what we mean by competitive, the phrase competitive entry literally just means it's not actually your choice as to whether you come in. So say you wanted to do a Bachelor of Arts, well, you just enroll in a Bachelor of Arts and you turn up on the first day. For the health science professional programs, of which we're one, it means you have to meet certain criteria to be able to get in. And that phrase we use is competitive entry. So that's sort of that definition of what that means. I hope that answers that question.
It does. And would you mind commenting, Billy, on how much people's academic record contributes to the decision we make around the enrolment in the program?
Yep. So the question was around how much does the academic play into it. So essentially, you're in the mix if you meet the academic minimum and you've met the interview criteria. But that academic minimum, obviously, we want you to exceed that minimum. So the better you can do at your academics, it does improve your chances of getting in. But it changes each year. It's based on who applies and what that looks like each year. So basically, if you are meeting those 14 credits at school, great. If you're meeting the C plus GPA, great. Throw your application in. We'll want to talk to you.
Okay. And Perhaps you guys would be good to answer this one, just around the workload on the course and the ability to also work part-time while studying and things like that.
I'll just repeat the question because I'm not sure how well they. So we're going to, Liv and Sani are going to talk to what the workload was like and whether they had a life outside of it.
I think the workload is very manageable. It is different. I had a lot of friends doing a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Commerce or something like that, and I would say that the workload is slightly higher than something like that, and we are expected to show up to class all the time. Like some of my friends used to sleep through their lectures, so you can't be doing that sort of stuff. But in the meantime, I would also say that I've definitely had a life. I don't know about you, Sania, but it is manageable.
Yeah, no, it's definitely manageable. I can't remember in first year if we had like a Monday or a Friday off.
Yep.
Yeah.
But definitely in second and third year, you get like 1 day a week off. So that's when I actually did like my part-time job and stuff. So yeah, because I had that 1 day a week off, it was really manageable to still have a weekend and have a life, but also get my study done during the week. And yeah.
Yeah, I think I did part-time work. You did part-time work. A lot of
Most people.
Yeah, a lot of the people in the course do part-time work, and it's definitely manageable as long as you have a schedule and you're prioritizing, then it's more than fine to do. Have a balance.
So one of the good things about our program is because you're all doing the same papers and we set the timetable for that, we can control what your timetable looks like. And we work really hard to try and make sure, like we say, we try and give you at least 1 day off a week. If you're coming into the university, we try not for it to be for just an hour. There'll be 2 or 3 classes on that day to make your travel time worthwhile. We never start before 9. We're usually done by 3. Occasionally it might be a 4 o'clock finish, but that's unusual. Usually it's somewhere between 9 and 10 start and finish somewhere 2, 3, 4 at the very latest on any day. And we're really mindful about your assessment timetable. So we look to try and limit clashes where we can. We try and spread it out. We know what classes are happening. So as a program, we try to be very responsive about that. I think the other great thing about a smaller program like us is if it's not working for you guys, you can ask us. And an example of that was recently, I think just last year, we used to give students an hour for lunch. Students came and said, an hour's a bit long. We'd rather have half an hour and then get home earlier. We could change it. We did. So we can respond if it's not working.
Yeah.
And we agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to comment on specialisation in radiation therapy?
So the question is about specialising in radiation therapy. You most definitely can, and that is the way to professionally progress, I guess. And so it's either into what we call the pre-treatment area, CT or planning, and then or into the treatment. But as I said, clinical education, so the clinical departments, you can become an academic radiation therapist, or you can specialise sort of into a sub almost specialty within there. New technologies come through all of the time. And so often you'll find that someone will be responsible for introducing and embedding that into a department. Have you guys thought about what directions you'd like to go in?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about in the Wellington department, they have RTs that specialise in certain sites. So we have an RT that specifically looks after head and neck patients, and she runs like consults, and also a lady that does the breast patients as well. And I always thought that that was really interesting that they specialised in knowing how to help the patients out, and they do the consults with them on a weekly basis. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. So any of you thoughts?
Yeah, I really like CT at the moment, so that's probably the direction I'm heading. But brachy also interests me quite a bit.
Okay, so there's a
yeah.
subspecialty within radiation therapy. We're just throwing another term in there. So the most of the radiation that we deliver is external going in. There is a subspecialty where it's internal radiation, but it's not offered all the way around the country. It's only in 3 or 4 departments. So it's a very niche kind of area as well. So there are a number of ways, and you do have an ability to kind of somewhat create what you'd like your career to look like a little bit. I was a planning specialist clinically and also clinical tutor, so that education side was always very strong for me, and then I've moved into the university. So you've just had 3 different pathways through the career. So yeah, it's part of what we do. Yeah.
A lot of people are asking about how can they prepare for their interview, and what would be some good discussion points in their interview to serve them well.
The question was about how to prepare for the interview, and what I guess handy hints as to how you could do well. So I'm going to let these guys who have had the interview, and then I'll talk as the person who does the interview.
The interview was a little while ago, so basing on what I can remember from it, I did treat it a little bit like a job interview. It is just that sort of thing, and talking yourself up. As much as I hate to do it, that is the best thing you can do, and talking about yourself and your interests, because a lot of radiation therapy is how you are as a person. So yeah, just anything you can do to talk yourself up is great.
Yeah, just really sell yourself, and try and get as much of your personality across as you can in the interview, like things you're interested in, why you might want to be in radiation therapy, why it's important to you. Just really like those personal things is what you can really, I think, focus on to.
Yeah. And so from my point of view as the person conducting the interviews, one thing I think Liv's point about it as like a job interview, it kind of is. So that means even though it's going to be on Zoom, put on your good clothes, put yourself in a place where no distractions, all those those are really obvious practical kind of things, but they make a difference, especially with the Zoom. Don't be sitting on your bed with it on your knee if you can avoid that. Like they said, be yourself. That's really who we want to see. Don't try and prepare answers, but try and be natural and bring your personality to it. We are very skilled. We'll make you feel comfortable, all right? So we'll allow you to shine a little bit. We want to get to know you. I think being a little bit prepared in terms of go and look at the website, refresh yourself on the videos, remember what the profession is you're applying for, because we're looking to go, well, how committed do you seem to be doing this? Those kinds of things I think are really good things to help prepare you for it. Yep.
And what about your CV?
The CV is just a CV, okay? So don't worry too much about that. It's a CV and a statement of interest. So the CV is just if you're leaving school, like what school you're at, what subjects have you been doing, have you had part-time jobs? So lay it out like a job CV. I don't expect it to be any more than a page. The statement of interest is where you're going to tell us about why you want to be a radiation therapist. So that's the little bit where you're selling yourself about why you think you are the right person for this profession. So that's what we're looking for in those 2 things. The CVs we tend to use at the interview to help ask questions and get to know you a little bit more. And as is the statement of interest as well. Yeah.
Someone said, can you talk more about overseas job opportunities? No?
Well, I can. They are available. I'm going to talk ourselves up at the moment. We are, I'm going to say, the premier radiation therapy program in the world. Not all programs include planning in their program. So New Zealand, Australia, and Ireland are really the only countries where radiation therapists do the planning, which makes us highly sought after overseas because we are really good. And so we have graduates working all around the world, lots, way too many in Australia, lots in the UK, Canada, into Europe. We've got people in Switzerland, Finland, Sweden. We have people work in the Netherlands, Malta, Greece, all over Europe. The only place that we don't tend to infiltrate into is America, and that's literally because of the American immigration system and that their training is very, very different there. Very different, and Americans don't come and work in New Zealand because their qualifications don't stack up to ours. But the rest of the world, we have radiation therapists working everywhere. Yeah. I went and worked in the UK. I did the typical OE, and I worked in the UK for 3 years, travelling around, working in different places, and a permanent job, and I had a great time. But I came back.
I'm jumping around a bit.
That's right.
Sorry. There's a few questions about whether summer school can be an option to catch up on entry requirements.
Summer school is not an option to catch up on entry requirements. We need to know our numbers fairly in the sort of January, early-ish January, and summer school often does not finish in time for us to be able to take it. So we don't consider, we can't offer summer school as a catch-up on those credits. If you've got particular questions about your situation, though, don't just take my blanket statement here. Give us an email and ask us about your specific situation, and we'll talk to you directly about what that means for you.
Okay, and there are a lot of questions about how much school leavers' grades and results are taken into account in the applications.
It's a factor in the application, but it's not all of it. Obviously, we want to see, we don't have your level 3 results when we are doing your offers because you don't get them until January next year. So we're working off, are you doing the right subjects and are you doing the right number of credits? And then we look at how well you went in year 2, in level 2. It will vary again each year. I mean, obviously, what I'm going to say is we do always want you to be trying to do your best. That's always going to advantage you. That's just a fact. Again, if you're concerned or worried or want to know more about your specific situation, get in touch with us.
Okay, and on that, there's just been a couple of questions about why we've removed English as a requirement.
Yep, it's a really practical reason. So when we created the list some years ago, those were kind of the subjects that were offered in schools. Schools offer many different ways now that will give you sort of English kind of things. We've seen people were doing psychology and all sorts of subjects. And so we just found that having that very strict criteria was no longer fit for purpose. Literacy can be gained now throughout many more subjects than it used to be able to. So we're going just to use literacy now to substitute for that English. So like I say, it's for a very pragmatic, practical reason. The reason we used to be 16 credits and we've dropped to 14 credits is also for the same pragmatic reason. Many schools no longer offer 16 credits, 14, because that's the number you need for that university entrance, is the credit number that's offered. And we don't want to get in the way of you being able to enter the course. The reason we have maths and the reason we have bio and or physics is because biology and physics are a lot of what we do in the course. Do you guys want to talk about physics?
Yeah,
and bio and anatomy? Yeah. How did I know that? Talk about physics first, or rad tech.
Physics. I never did physics in high school. I came into rad tech. Feeling very worried, but came out of it feeling not worried at all. Even from the first test or so. It's very specific to radiation therapy. They kind of teach you about why you're learning the physics you are. So it seems random that we do physics, but it's really not. It's very essential to how the machine works that we use. So it's all very useful and not so scary.
Yeah, and it also in the first year, it's still the same, where there's like a recap of sort of like mechanics and electricity, which is
High
sort
school.
of like the high school.
Briefly, but briefly.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of more physics. That's just more to do with RT specifically, you know, how the machine works and all of the, you know, bits and bobs inside there. And
It's a bit more technical than bits.
yeah, no, it's a lot more technical than that. But like, yeah,
It's very much that you know why you're learning about it, and it's very specific. And I feel like even if you did physics in high school, it doesn't necessarily help you.
Yeah, no.
Like it might give you a little bit of background, but it won't mean that you come into rad tech as a pro.
No.
Everyone kind of starts off at the same level anyway. So yeah.
I echo that. So we know that most people coming into the program will not have done physics. So we have designed the program to be able to support you through and get through to know what you need to do. So that's part of our responsibility to make sure that we've done that. So we know that. Now, a little less commonly, you might not have done biology. That's also not really a barrier. Because our bio is very much about cellular bio and human anatomy, which you don't always cover a lot of at school. So again, we are aware of what the school curriculums are and what you may or may not have done. And our program, again, is very much about the anatomy and how it works and what that means for our patient that we have in front of us. I think one of the things for both physics and anatomy, though, they're probably our biggest workload subjects. So in terms of are they hard? No. Are they big? Yes. So you have to keep up and you have to be regular with your study. If you do that, you'll be fine. If you don't, and when I say by do that, it means we expect attendance in our classes. Our classes are designed to be not like lectures, but more like tutorials. And so we do record a lot of our classes, but if you rely on that, you won't pass.
Could you talk a little bit about the open day? Quite a few questions asking whether people should come to the open day, where it is. I can put the link in, but just a little bit.
Yes, I will put the link in. The answer is yes, come to the open day. So we are having an open day here at our department in Wellington, at the university here in Wellington, August the 23rd, I want to say, 26th. Kate will look at the date. Sorry, I've just lost that off the top of my head. It is the same day as the Victoria University Open Day. So if you are coming to Wellington for the Victoria University Open Day, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're having an open day here at the university. There are still 20 places left available on that. And that will be a tour of the campus. Won't take long, we're quite small, but also a tour of the Wellington Cancer Centre, and we'll also have a few hands-on activities as well for you to do, and you'll get to meet a few of the lecturers and a few of our current students as well. So yeah, if you are here, so even if you're not coming for the Vic Day and you want to come to Wellington for that day, please do, we'd love to see you. If you're not able to come, don't panic though, okay? Like there is so much information on our website. It won't make or break your ability to get onto the course if you can't come to a cancer centre tour or you can't come to the open day. We just like to try and provide as many opportunities as we can, but it won't be a disadvantage if you can't come to those. I need to make that really clear for you. Yeah.
What can you go on to do with a Bachelor of Radiation Therapy other than radiation therapy? what other options are there?
Yeah, look, we are a vocational degree, so we are training radiation therapists. So that's the expectation, is that most of you will go on and become radiation therapists and have careers as radiation therapists. But I did allude to the fact that we've got students or ex-students working all over the show. So what we do is, one of the big things we do, like I said, we teach you excellent communication skills, we teach you problem solving, and we teach you critical analysis. And those three things are highly sought after in many jobs. So you can, if you choose to, go into some other areas. And like I said, we've got people working in ministry health. We've got people working in big data for the ministry. We've got a lot of analyst kind of roles, gone into allied health roles. So there are other things, but I do want to make it clear, the whole program is designed to produce radiation therapists who work within that cancer centre in the radiation therapy community. Just looking at the time, Kate, have we got are there burning questions?
If you take a gap year after college, would it affect your application?
No. So no, in your CV, you want to tell us what you've been doing. In your statement of interest, you might like to tell us what you've been doing. But no, as long as you meet those secondary school category criteria, it won't matter if you take a gap year.
And do most people get a job when they finish?
Well, currently, everyone gets a job when they finish. Look, it has fluctuated over the years. And when I mean over the years, I worked for the university for 22 years. So generally what I would say, even in the worst years, if you are prepared to travel and go and work anywhere, you'll get a job. If you're desperate to only work in a centre, then you might have to wait. And even with the short staff, that might be the case as well. But if you're open to being a bit flexible about where in New Zealand you go and work, you'll get a job.
The open day is on the 23rd of August.
23rd of August for the open day. That is a Friday, 3 p.m. here at the university. The link that Kate is putting up.
Yes,
No.
So our chat function is disabled, so I'll send an email to everyone after one of those links.
So we have all your email address. Don't worry, we won't be spamming you. We'll just send you some useful information, including the link to that registration page for the open day. We will send you reminders about the opening and closing dates, and we'll send you reminders about the Cancer Centre tour as well. So I think at this point...
Yeah, I'm happy to, if you want to just turn the camera and stuff off, I'm happy to spend an extra 10 minutes answering these questions.
What we might do is there are a few still other questions that might be quite useful. We're just aware of the time. So if you're happy to stay on. Otherwise, we might make a little summary of the questions that we answer from this time that we send out in that email with you as well. So if you've got another couple of questions. If you have to go, I won't be offended. Thank you very much for your time. If you're able to stay for another 5 minutes, we'll spend another 5 minutes answering some questions.
I think just one that's cropped up a couple of times is why are there a lot more women in the class compared to men, and is this just a coincidence?
No, it's not a coincidence. So within health, if you look at nursing and allied health, they are mainly female predominated professions. That's historical from men were doctors and women were nurses in allied health. We would love more men in the profession. There is no reason for men to not be in the profession. And we do want more, but it is heavily female dominated, and that is just historical, pure and simple.
A lot of questions which I just can't get time to answer all of them, so I might ask you to just address is when the start date is, or a rough start time in 2025.
If you're offered an interview, we will actually give you an academic calendar for the next year. The start date is mid-February. It's the same as the University of Otago's start date. So we can give you that information. But we start at that first year, we start at the same, we run roughly to the same dates as Dunedin, the Otago University down there. Second and third year, we do not. They are extended academic years, but that first year is pretty much the same.
And last one, maybe, what is the biggest challenges in the profession?
What have been your challenges, guys?
Challenges, thinking about placement at the moment. Challenges would just be learning how to work with pretty much any type of person you could ever think of. Like Billy was saying before, no patient is the same. So I think, and also staff as well. It's like any workplace. Even though we are like-minded, there still is different ways of communicating. So I think that would be a challenge of mine.
A challenge for me, I think, was actually the planning part of radiation therapy, just because it was so different than anything I'd ever done before. Like, it was like learning a whole new language, because there's such a certain way to get the outcome that you want. And but it just takes like a lot. It just takes practice, putting in the hours, and then you eventually get there.
Yep. I think the challenges that often people meet, having said it's a fun, vibrant workplace, you will connect with patients and it will be sad sometimes. But we put a lot of support around that. So there's a lot of education in the program about how to manage yourself and look after yourself in those environments. We have peer group supervision, sort of mentoring roles as well, and we use each other too. So that is the reality, is that some of our patients will die, and that can be sad and that can be challenging. I think, as you say, both patients, you're going to meet everyone from everywhere, and that's great. And some days it's not. But that's like any workplace, to be honest. I think those things you identified are pretty common to every workplace. I think the unique thing is that all of our patients have cancer, and that extra sort of toll that might take on you. RTs generally like to cook, we like to eat, and we're pretty physical. We tend to all go to the gym or run or things like that. Those are common outlets for us. We're quite a similar type. I think we're going to leave it there. I know there have been lots of questions, and we'll endeavour to get those answers out to you as we go, but hopefully we've answered most of the burning questions you had. Like I said, go to our website, get in touch with us directly if you have any further questions. I would really like to thank Liv and Sania. They've spent all day working in the clinical, and then they've come here with their lecturers. So I really want to thank them for their time. I really do appreciate it, guys, and I know it's helpful for you guys to hear from the students. So I'd really like to thank you. I'd like to thank Kate, who's worked frantically for the last hour trying to answer your questions. And I would like to thank all of you for your interest. I hope this has helped you identify whether RT is something you're really interested in or not. That is also okay as well. And we'll be in touch with some information. And hopefully I look forward to meeting many of you at the interviews that are coming up in September. But for now, have a very good evening and take care.